So on this video we have lesson 310. Now lesson 310 is the end of chapter 3. It takes everything we've been talking about. Positive and negative numbers, horizontal number lines, vertical number lines, coordinates, ordered pair, coordinate planes, how to plot things, our axis, our x-axis, our y-axis. Then we're going to run before we jump, either forwards, backwards, up, down, quadrants 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's going to take all those things we've been talking about, and we're going to have to think about what a story problem says and what it wants us to do. The most important thing that I can say is stay with me. Follow along, fill out your book, use your muscle memory, make sure you're understanding it. If I said something that didn't quite make sense, go back to look what I'm saying and what I'm doing and just keep up. We're going to do a lot of reasoning through these different problems. So I have a dinosaur. That's the first example that they're going to give us. It says an artist is using an illustration program. The program uses a coordinate plane with the origin of 0, 0. Once again, staying in the center of that coordinate plane where the x and the y intersect, not going forward, not going back, not going up, not going down. It's located at the center of the computer screen. The artist draws a dinosaur centered on the point 4, 6. Then she moves it 10 units to the left, 12 units down. What ordered pair represents the dinosaur's new location? Use the graphic organizer to help you solve the problem. So when we look at what it's asked us to do, we have to stop and we have to think about everything we're going to be talking about. So as we look at it, we have to use our minds, read it, think about it, and use this information. We're going to fill in these blocks. Now, you're not going to see these blocks on your assignment, I get that. It's taking you through the thinking process of everything you need to have in your understanding before you can actually solve the problem. So the first one says, what do I need to find? Well, I need to find the blank for this dinosaur's new location. So you can use two different words. You're either going to find the coordinates or you're going to be finding the ordered pair. Either wording works, but you know you're going to find that set of parentheses where the x is separated with a comma to the y. What information do I need to use? Well, I need the dinosaur started at what point? Then the artist moved it blank to the left and down. So I know it started at the point of positive 4, positive 6. And then the artist moved it to the left, so 10 units to the left. And then we went down, so 12 units down. I could draw a diagram to graph the information on A. Well, that's when your coordinate plane comes in handy. So my coordinate plane is where I'm going to be able to plot it, work it out, and be able to figure out what this missing coordinate is that I'm looking for. So on my coordinate plane, I'm going to start by graphing and labeling the points. So here's the boxes that I just filled in with the information that I need. I'm going to start by graphing and labeling the point of positive 4, positive 6. So when I go to my point of origin and I go forward 4 because my first number is positive and I know I'm going to jump forward or run forward, then I'm going to go, notice that on this one I'm counting by twos. So I'd go 1, 2, and then I'm going to jump up 6 because it's positive. 2, 4, 6. So boxes wise, I'm going to go forward 2 and up 3, but I know I'm counting by twos, so I'm going to be able to plot it at the correct point of positive 4, positive 6. Once I've done that, it says from this point, count blank to the left. Blank to the left is 10. So counting by twos again, I'd go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And that would lead me over to the 10, which is the negative 4 column. Then I know I'm going to go down and down 12. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. It looks like it's going to take me down to that negative 6. So when I drop down 12, I know I'm going straight down. I'm going to cross that coordinate plane and I'm going to go to the negative 6. So when I plot that, then I know that I'm going to end up at negative 6, negative 6. So the dinosaur's new location is simply a -6, -6 when I put it into its correct spot. Now the second one that gives me, we have Tyrone and Kyra. They both walk home from school. Kyra walks 4 blocks east and 3 blocks south to get home. Tyrone lives 3 blocks west and 3 blocks south of the school. How far apart are Tyrone's and Kyra's homes? Use the graphic organizer. Once again, a graphic organizer, same thing as graphic source that we've talked about in reading, in science, and in math. It's a picture, it's a graph, it's a chart, something to use to help me figure out what it is that I'm reading about and using. So one of the things I want to talk about also is in reading, we've always talked about this distracting voice when I'm reading and not thinking about what I'm actually reading and focusing on. Math, I have the exact same type of voice. I have my reasoning voice that I should be using in math, and I should be thinking about the problems that I'm doing, but a lot of times we get this distracting voice going. I understand, I've struggled with it my entire life, but I have to force myself to stop and realize I'm not paying attention, I'm not focused, I'm not following along, and I have to go back. That is one of the best things about these videos, is you can stop, rewind, pause, as many times as you need to. Rewatch these videos. But get control of this distracting voice and don't let it keep you from getting the grades that you know you can get and that you deserve. So let's focus on what it's talking about. We know that when we do this, we have this information. What do we need to find? What information do I need to use, and how will I use this information? So what do I need to find? Well, I need to find the distances from Tyrone to Kyra, because that's what the information is. That's how far apart are Tyrone and Kyra's homes. Well, what information do I need to use? Well, I know that they're starting at school, so I have my starting point. That's my point of origin, 0, 0. And I know what direction and what distance they're going in each way. So once I know that, then I know that I can do the math. And how will I use that information? Well, I'll start at my point of origin, I'll plot out those points, and I'll figure out what the endpoints are to then do the math to find their distance. So I'll start with my point of origin, which is 0, 0. That's the school where we're starting out. Now, one of the things that I always find helpful when I'm talking about a map in these type of situations is knowing my directions. North is always up, south is always down, and west to east spells we. So I always know that the west is on the left-hand side. That way, when it tells me what directions I'm walking up here, then I can move it in the correct direction. So when I look at what Kyra does, Kyra walks 4 to the east and 3 to the south. So when I go 4 east, I start at my point of origin, I'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3 south tells me to jump down 1, 2, 3. Tyrone walks 3 west and 3 south. So I'd start at my point of origin again and go 1, 2, 3, because my first one's my running to the west, but it's a negative, and then I'm going to jump down 3 south because that would be a negative as well. So when I figure out where those locations are exactly, then I can think of what their difference is. So when I look at what their distance is, or their differences from one another, I have a -3, -3. I have a +4, -3. Well, when I figure out that distance, then we've talked about looking at what number stays the same and then using math on the numbers that are changing. My y-axis, they're both at -3. They're both straight across from each other in town. But my x-axis is the one that changes. I have a -3 and a +4. And what did we say on the previous videos and on our homework assignments about those opposite numbers? If they're on opposite numbers, if we have a positive and a negative, then I know I'm going to add those two together for my distance. I'm always going to add my opposite numbers. And when I add them, 3 + 4, that gives me a distance of 7. So I know that when I'm doing that, I end up with 7. So stretch out your hands. I know you've been writing a lot of information down, but we're getting ready to continue on. Make sure you stay focused on what we're doing, follow along, get your book filled out, because it's what's going to help you on solving your homework. So now we go to our share and show questions, our practice questions. I have a coordinate plane here. Notice some information. Once again, each of my units is going to be counting by twos. That's going to be important as we do this. I have 4 points that I'm going to plot, and it's about Busby County. It says the Busby County is rectangular. So that makes it nice and easy. I know that I'm going to have the same size top and bottom, same size left and right, because it's a rectangle. It says a map of the county on a coordinate plane shows the vertices. A vertice is a point. Now we really haven't talked a lot about geometry, so this is an important point to truly understand. When I talk about a vertex or a vertice, a set of vertices, excuse me, then I'm talking about the points of two lines. I can always remember that I'm talking about the points because the word vertex or vertices, it starts with a V that has a point. So if you remember that we're talking about the points that we're talking about, that'll help us realize where we are plotting our shapes. So what it tells us is that on this rectangle, I have 4 vertices, so I have the 4 corners of my shape. It gives me a -5, +8, a +8, +8, +8, -10, and -5, -10. Each unit on the map represents 1 mile. What is the county's perimeter? Now, please understand when it says each unit is 1 mile, it doesn't mean that this from 0 to 2 is 1. It means that everything is being measured. So the spaces in between, so this would be, if we got to the 10, it would be 10 miles. So I need to start with plotting my vertices or my 4 corners for my county. So my 4 corners would be a -5, 8. -5, 8 has to go back because it's negative, and then jump up because it's +8. And it is going to be right between the -4 and the -6 because 5 is not shown in there, so I know it's in the space. My second vertex is 8, 8, both positives. I know that's going to be my quadrant 1 because that's where my 2 positive numbers are. I'm going to run forward 8, then I'm going to jump up 8. Once again, notice they go straight across from each other. My third vertex is a +8, -10, so that's quadrant 4 because all quadrant 4s are positive followed by a negative. So I'm going to run forward 8, jump down 10, and I'll put my point. And then the final one is a -5, -10. That's your quadrant 3. Quadrant 3 is always negative, negative, backwards and jumping down. So I'd go backwards to my 5, once again in that space between -4 and -6, and I want to jump down to a -10. That gives me my 4 coordinates. Now, if you feel better about doing it, then go ahead and connect those and make your rectangle that makes up your county. Is that required? No, but for some people they end up seeing it better if it is a rectangle. It's up to you if you want to or not. So when I'm talking about that, then I look at what my measurement is. So when I go from -5 to a +8, then I'm talking about a unit of 13. Because when I look at my ordered pair, my y's are the same. So I'd get rid of those. And then I'm just left with a -5 and a +8. And when I have -5 and I have +8, I have opposites. So I know once again when I have opposites, I'm going to add them together as an absolute value. 8 + 5 gives me my 13. So I know my top is 13 units. And it's a rectangle, so top and bottom have to be equal. So I know I'm going to be talking about 13 miles, top and bottom, so times 2. When I go to my sides then, my right and my left, I'm going to be comparing from +8, 8, where we left off, and we're going to be dropping down to 8, -10. On this pairing, I have my x's that are the same. +8, +8. My y then is 8 and negative 10. And once again, I have opposites, so I know that I'm going to add their absolute values. Absolute value of negative 10 is just 10. And when I add those together, I end up with 8 plus 10, which is my 18. And if the right is 18, then the left has to be 18, so I'm going to have two sets of 18 miles for the left and right on the perimeter. So when I have two sets of 13, which gives me 26, and two sets of 18, which gives me 36, that leaves me with a math problem of 26 plus 36 miles, which gives me a total of a perimeter for our Busby County as 62 miles. Now, the question comes next is, well, what if I change the size? So if this was my original setting and this says, well, if I change the size then, what if the vertices of the county were actually negative 5/8 and 8/8, which were the same at the top, but we changed how deep we go. We, instead of going down 10, we're actually going to only go down to negative 6 and negative 6. Well, I can replot that up here and change what the image looks like to where I'm going still my negative 5/8 and 8/8, but now 8 negative 6 and negative 5 negative 6, which changes my overall shape of my county. Or we can just focus in on what are my x and y coordinates showing me and what math do I have left. On my x and y coordinates, once again for the top, I should see that my y coordinates are the same. So I'm going to eliminate those. I don't need them. And what I'm left with is a negative 5 and a positive 8. And when I have a negative 5 and a positive 8, once again I have opposites there. And opposites tell me to add. So just like before, I still have my 5 plus 8, which gives me my 13 miles as my top distance. And my top distance has to be the same as the bottom distance, so I'm going to stick with 26 miles. The difference comes because I'm changing how far I'm going down. So on my left and my right, I'm going to look at the 8/8 and the 8 negative 6. My x-axis once again stays the same, which leaves me with just a positive 8 and a negative 6. So when I cross those out and I see what I'm left with, I see that I have opposites. Once again, opposites tell me to add those together. 8 plus 6 gives me 14. And I know that my left and the right are the same length because it's a rectangle. So when I take my 14 and times 2, I end up with 28. So what happens if I change my vertices for this county? What happens to the size of the perimeter? Well, the perimeter becomes 28 plus 26 now, and it's 54 miles. So it actually shrinks because I didn't go down as far for the second one. So then we go to question 3. On a coordinate map of Melville, a restaurant is located at -9, -5. A laundry business, is located 3 units to the left of the restaurant on the map. What are the map coordinates of the laundry business? So if I think about what I have, I know the information that I'm given is a coordinate of -9, -5. I'm going to go to the left. To the left. Well, that's always my x-axis. So I know this is the number that's going to change, and my y-axis is going to stay the same. I can do two different things. I can just count backwards with -9, thinking about my number line, going 3 steps. That would take me -10, -11, -12. So that would have to be a -12. Or I could think, well, if I have -9, and I'm going left, that's -3, and -9 plus -3 gives me -12. Either way that you look at it, even if you want to draw a number line and do the steps, it's still going to give you a new ordered pair for the laundry business as -12, -5. Once again, your y-axis doesn't change. The last one then we have is question 4. It says the library is 4 blocks north and 9 blocks east of the school. The museum is 9 blocks east and 11 blocks south of the school. How far is it from the library? So let's look at our first piece of information. My first piece of information tells me that my library is 4 blocks north and 9 blocks east. Now I'm hoping that you notice the book is trying to trick you. Now guys, I have tried to tell you all along. The book will try to trick you. The ISTEP test will try to trick you. NWEA will try to trick you. They'll add you information. Sometimes they'll switch around the information just to make sure that you do understand what we're talking about. And that's the important part. Do you understand that if I go north, I'm talking about my y-axis? I'm going up. And if I talk about my east, I'm going out to the right. So I'm talking about my x-axis. So they purposely put these in a reverse order in the math problem. So what you do is when you work in your workspace to the right, switch the order of them. It's okay. No one says you have to list them in the order that's there if it doesn't mess up the math, and in this case it doesn't. So I'm just going to switch them and say, okay, so I'm actually talking about my x-axis of 9 east, and then my y-axis of going up 4 in the northern direction. Then I'm going to write down my museum. My museum says I'm going 9 to the east, and I'm going 11 south, so I'm jumping down. And when I line them up this way, then I see I got 2 coordinates that are the same. My x-axis is the same, and my y-axis are the ones that are changing. So I'm just going to get rid of my x-axis. I don't need it to do this math. And then when I notice what we're talking about here, north and south, we're talking about positive because it goes up and negative because it goes down. So once again, opposites tell me I get to add. So if I take 4 plus 11, it gives me 15 blocks for that answer. This really is a very basic understanding of what we're talking about when it comes to our coordinate planes. Understanding going forward and backwards, understanding what units are. Units are just the blocks that it's talking about in a coordinate plane. But how to plot them is a key component. You have to know to run before you jump. Once you do that, then you can figure out all the others. Remember, if we're talking about distances that are straight across from each other, either straight across horizontally or straight across vertically, then I'm going to have one axis that is the same. I can eliminate it, and then I can do the math. If they're on the same side, if they're both positive or they're both negative, then I know I can subtract them. If they're opposites of one another, one is positive, one is negative, I know I can add them for their distances, and it becomes a lot easier. Pay attention. If you fell behind, go back, get caught up, rewatch it. If you didn't quite understand it, rewatch it again. Come to me and ask me questions. Your assignment's going to be on the board. Once again, do your best, and if you don't know, please ask.